Hi, everybody. Today, I'm going to tell you a little story about a situation that it was an event that happened about 5 months ago that I attempted to use my intuitive skills to help resolve the problem and was unsuccessful. And the problem just recently was resolved this month, and it's a great example of how challenging it can be to um, get accurate intuitive information when you're trying to solve a problem. If you don't, how challenging it can be with the questioning process, and how asking the wrong questions or questions that can be misinterpreted by your subconscious mind, by overall operating system that helps us get intuitive information, how that can really, and other things, not setting yourself up properly to get clear answers, how all this can lead to faulty intuitive feedback. And I definitely, it's not that I got faulty intuitive feedback in this case, but I couldn't get clear answers. I couldn't get clear enough answers to resolve the problem. So here's the story. So this was back in August, and I was with a group in Scotland. We were actually in Orkney at the time that this event happened, and it was the last couple of days of a week-long Scotland tour. And we had stopped in this little town called Kirkwall and for lunch, and I sent everybody ahead because I wanted to clean out my purse. I always, when I do tours, I have this big leather purse, and I have all kinds of stuff that I carry around with me for these tours, and it was just overloaded, and I was getting irritated getting into it all the time, and I said, oh, I got to clean out this purse. So I sent everybody ahead. I stayed in the van. I was the driver of the van. I stayed in the van and moved lots of stuff from my purse into this little yellow shopping bag that I have. It's a little cloth bag with these little white sheep over it, all over it. And I transferred all that stuff, then hopped out of the van and locked up the van and went to meet everybody for lunch. Well, apparently between the point that I got out of the van and the point that we got back to the van, in that it was about 20 minutes, I misplaced the bag, the yellow sheep bag was missing. And I knew that I had locked up the van, and the van had clearly not been broken into. So we looked all over. We thought, well, it must have just fallen on the ground when I pulled out my coat and put on my coat. And we looked everywhere, but we could not find my bag. And I thought, oh, this is not good, because my little coin purse was in the bag, and inside that was my driver's license. And I was, again, the driver of the van. We still had 9 days to go on the tour. We were flying to a couple days from this point that I'm telling you about. We were flying to Ireland, and I was going to be picking up another rental van there. But you can't rent a van without a driver's license. You can't rent a vehicle without a driver's license. So it really frazzled me right away, because I could see the implications of, if we don't find this right away, this could be big trouble. And I'm going to have to get creative on how am I going to solve this problem if I don't find this license. But I did start using my intuitive skills. But I just was not very successful. I asked out the gate if right away, before we left the parking lot, has someone stolen meaning it was a malicious intent, has someone stolen the bag? And the answer, I got a very clear no. I was using muscle testing, and I got a very clear, I just put my fingers like this, and my little code for my body is, if the answer is yes, I'll get a lot of strength in my fingers, it'll be hard to pull them apart. If the answer is no, then they'll easily split. And I got a very clear no. No one's stolen the bag, and I didn't feel that either. And my next question was, well, has someone found the bag? Has someone, a human being, found the bag? And I got a kind of I call it a wimpy yes. It wasn't a clear yes. It's kind of where my fingers kind of stick and then they break. And which means that kind of, but not exactly. Well, what's that all about? And so I tried other questions like, well, has the bag, maybe someone picked up the bag and just immediately threw it in the trash thinking it was garbage. Has that happened? Something like that happened? No. And I got a clear no on that. Maybe it got caught up in someone's tire. Maybe someone ran over it and got caught in their tire, and they pulled it along out of the lot. Something like that happened? No. I tried switching to clairvoyance to see to see if I could see where the bag was, and I couldn't get a clear picture. Now, part of the reason I was having so much trouble, and this is just a classic mistake, I've made it myself in the past. I see so many of my students make this mistake where they'll jump right into the intuitive process without taking even a minute to still themselves, get centered, get calm inside. You can do that just with a few deep breaths, a little bit of alternate nostril breathing. I mean, 10 seconds, 30 seconds of alternate nostril breathing, and just bringing yourself really into a present centered state. I did not do that in this case. I went right into the intuitive process, and I was frazzled. I mean, it was a big no-no, to do that. But I just was wanting to get and I just broke the rules, and I wasn't able to get clear information. The other thing that was going on was the fact that the phrasing of my question, that has someone found the bag, was tricky from a standpoint of my subconscious mind and my operating system being able to interpret that correctly. That's why I couldn't get a clear yes or a clear no on that. And had I been more centered and present in the moment, not having part of myself worried about, oh my gosh, how am I going to solve that? How am I going to be able to rent a van in Ireland if I don't have that driver's license? Part of me was not there. Had I been totally there and totally centered and still, what will happen is, even if you ask a question that's not perfect, but that your intention overall behind the question is clear of what you're after, what you want, your system will override a shoddy question. In my experience, I've been doing this now for 40 years, and in my experience, you can ask somewhat sloppy questions and still get good feedback, provided you are very still, centered, present, so that all aspects of your operating system can read that deep intention of what you're after. If you are frazzled, you're not centered, part of you is thinking of something else like I was doing, then you don't get that whole system working for you. Your channels for getting feedback and information to come to you aren't fully open, and you'll get either very unclear results or you'll get inaccurate results. I was just getting unclear results, not inaccurate results, not erroneous results. So, but I needed clarity in that moment. I just couldn't get it. But anyway, and I couldn't get an override, and my system was taking, because I was frazzled, was taking that, stepping down to a very literal interpretation of the question that I was asking. Has someone found my bag? And so there were two problems in that question. One was someone, and one was the word found. And here's what happened. Here's what actually happened. Well, the bag was found, but it was discovered. It was discovered almost immediately after it fell out of the van. I had already left the parking lot, but it was discovered by two people. And on top of everything else, the bag, I was concerned about two things, the two bags. So there were actually two bags involved. One was a little coin purse that I thought was in the yellow bag, the yellow shopping bag. My driver's license was in a little coin purse. It has little donkeys on it. And apparently in the van, I had separated those two items because my cash was in the coin purse, and I wanted to grab that and have that with me, and I meant to put it in my purse, but apparently did not. Well, when everything got pulled out of the van, the coin purse was on the ground and the bag was on the ground, and two people discovered these items. They were together, but two people almost immediately came upon these items. And one picked up the coin purse and one picked up the bag. And the way I know this is because of being told by the police department, which is who eventually contacted me. It took 5 months, but I eventually was contacted by the Kirkwall police. And they said that two people found the items. The items were separate, and two people had picked them up, because I gave all the cash that was in the thing as a reward for once the items were discovered. I told the police, just keep the money, use part of it to send the stuff back to me, and then give the rest to whoever found the bag. And they sent me an email back to say that actually two people had discovered the items, and so they were going to split the reward between those two people, which is fine with me. But anyway, the long and the short of it is they picked up these items separately, even though these people knew each other. So someone was not an accurate word for what had actually happened. And my system was aware of what had actually happened, but I was not asking for that. I was asking if one person had found my bag. And the answer was no, not exactly. One person had found a bag, but there was another bag, and my system knew I was concerned about that. You see how confusing it can get. The word found was an issue. And the reason that was an issue is because the bag was, it infers the bag was lost, but technically the bag was never lost. The bag fell out of the vehicle. The two bags fell out of the vehicle. Two people found the items immediately. All this transpired in 15 to 20 minutes while I was, going to retrieve the group, grabbing a quick sandwich, and on the way we go back to the van. Two people immediately spot bag, they pick it up, and they immediately take it to the Kirkwall police. And so then it's delivered to the Kirkwall police. So the bag is not lost. And using the word found, has someone found my bag, infers that the bag was lost. This is just a little technical point, but it confused my operating system, who, when you're not perfectly centered and clear, will take everything just so incredibly literally, will not be able to get down to your deeper, clear meaning that you've got and sometimes that we're not even clear about what we intend when we ask the question. I was clear, my system just couldn't read what my deep intention was because I was so frazzled. So it's got to then rely on my words, and those words were they could be interpreted in a variety of ways. And technically the bag wasn't lost; it was already found and sitting quite safely in the Kirkwall police station. So there you have it. So I have retrieved the items, and everything was resolved. I was able to hire someone in Ireland to drive us around, so all that was handled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is an example of how tricky it can get. Now, some of the tips of how could I possibly have made it easier on myself or gotten clearer information. Number one, still centered, present. Number one. Number two, ask questions in different ways. And a lot of times that will ferret out, even if you're a little bit frazzled, that will ferret out the information that you need that will get you pointed in the right direction. For example, I could have said, instead of just saying, has someone found the bag? I could have said, has someone picked up the bag? Now, that would also be an erroneous question if it wasn't prefaced with, since I last saw the bag, the little sheet bag, has someone picked up the bag? Because if I just said, has someone picked up the bag, that would also be an erroneous question or could be misinterpreted, because well, when? 5 years ago, today, yesterday, when are you referring to? Because other people have handled that bag. Other people have picked up that bag over the course of my ownership of the bag. So a proper question would be, since I last saw the bag, has someone picked up the bag? And I would have gotten, had I asked the question that way, I would have gotten a very clear yes. And I could have then gone from there and maybe gotten better discovery and better information to help me. Never did it float into my mind that that the bag could have been at the police station. It not only never entered my mind, it never entered the mind of any member of my group. It never entered the mind of anyone that I told the story to after the bag was lost. And there were plenty of friends and neighbors and stuff that I relayed the story, in the, near time from the point that it happened over the first month that this all went on. But no one ever had the thought, did you ever call the police department? Ever. And I think part of that was, again, this frazzled energy and the idea that the bag was lost. I would describe it as the bag was lost. I think I created this field that made it just of confusion, that just made it very, very difficult, and an imprint, a thought form of lost bag that made it very difficult for anyone to get any kind of inkling of an idea of where this bag actually was. So ask questions in different ways. That can be helpful. You be careful of when you do phrase the questions, even if you're not frazzled, it's important to look at the questions and say, could any of the language in the question be misinterpreted? That's why and rephrase the question. So if it is taken very literally, that you would still get the accurate feedback of what you intend, of what you actually want to get back. So, and again, asking the questions in different ways can help you kind of skirt around that. Lastly, using varied skills. Like I attempted to use clairvoyance, and that was not very successful because I had not been still and centered. But had I been still and centered, clairvoyance would have probably been a better bet in this case, because I I would have said, where is the bag? Where is the bag? And I would have seen a picture of the bag. Hopefully I would have seen a picture of the bag being in kind of an institutional type setting versus like someone's car, someone's house. And that might have prompted me to ask other questions. So anyway, there you have it. Lost bag, found bag. A situation is resolved, but it was very expensive, to the tune of thousands of dollars this cost me, and not being able to get the accurate information on where this bag was. Had I been able to get that information, because the bag was at the police station before we left Orkney. The police station was literally 5 minutes from where we were in that parking lot. And had I been able to get clarity, we could have easily retrieved that bag that very day or the next day before we left, and it would have saved me tons of money, tons of stress, etc. So lesson learned. Hopefully you've learned something from this video, and pay attention, get still, get centered, get present. Anyway, bye for now, and I'll talk to you next time.